So how does Ouroboros at range compete with other weapons? Alright, fair warning, I've just woke up. Literally, I'm still sat here with my morning coffee. It's even got the coaster still attached. And the reason this video has come about is because after posting a video on the Casual King and how a full blue Oreo could outperform a full red Elmo's, a lot of people's rebuttal to this was do this at range, as in further away. Yeah, not a problem. All we're going to do is we're going to take a normal build with no stacking or build up mechanics. We're going to take our damage numbers, make sure they're consistent, which they are, and then we're going to move across to a further range. Now, I am doing this in real time, as you can hopefully see, and I'm going to be taking notes of them, which will be posted on screen there. So here we can see that what we are critting and what we are not critting. At 5 meters, our crit is 477,559 and our non-crit is 177,531. Pretty easy. But when we move to 25 meters, taking into account that the optimal range of Ouroboros is 15 meters. So we're 10 meters over where we should be. And hopefully, as you can see now, I'm not changing builds. I'm able to get my shots on target. There is a huge, I say huge, there's this annoying feature that when you're under range at this level, the game keeps swapping between, I don't know what measurement it is, but for example's sake, I'm not moving, but when I'm firing, because my character does this, the game goes 25, 26, 25, 26, 25, 26, 25, 26. So it's very hard to get like an actual accurate measure of what range we are at if we're not using Ranger, which is beyond infuriating. So I've just taken two different numbers, 390909 and for our crit and 142550 for our non-crit. This seems to be about a 20% drop. These are doing 80% of our original damage. So all we're going to do here is we're just going to round it down to 80%. So when we do our DPS calculations, to calculate the DPS that Ouroboros will be doing at 25 meters, I'm just going to remove 20% from the end equation. That simple. And then, obviously, because we're going to be comparing this to St. Elmo's, all we're going to do is check our damage, 591, and then we're going to do this again at 25 meters, and lo and behold, we get the exact same damage numbers. Optimal range of 35. Obviously, there's going to be no drop-off on the St. Elmo's at 25 meters. Now, it is at this point that I do need to stress there are going to be a ton of nuances, simply just because, obviously, not just looking at St. Elmo's, but ARs are considerably more accurate than SMGs. SMGs tend to be more stable, but accuracy goes into the AR's favour. That being said, when we're looking at enemies at that sort of range, particularly if you are using an SMG, I don't know about you, but I tend to play how my weapon kind of decides. So if I am using the SMG, I will tend to get in closer. My point here simply is that even at a decent-ish range, 25 meters-ish, Ouroboros is still a very good option. And we're going to go into this with a little bit of math. However, now the only argument for this isn't going to be so much the range, it's going to be accuracy. That is quite literally it. So the build for this test is quite simple. 4P strikers, chest to chest with obliterate, coyote's mask. Now the DPS for this at base is as follows. Ouroboros is doing 63.22% more on average. So the next thing is a little bit weird. I'm aware, spreadsheet, everyone likes doing it, but here we can see the calculation. We're just looking at the top two where it said Elmo and Ouroboros. Hopefully you can see that all the calculations haven't changed. All I'm doing is going into the DPS calculation here on Ouroboros and multiplying it by 0.8, which is essentially going to remove 20% of my damage. Hopefully you can see that the damage is going down, and we are still doing 30.58% more than Elmo's at 25 meters. Even if we look at the sustained DPS, Ouroboros is still doing 3 to 6% more depending on head or body shot. So yeah, Ouroboros really is just that silly. And the reason I'm clinging to 25 meters, by the way, is one, it's probably the most accurate test we can actively do, simply just because if we put the range to 35 meters, for no other reason other than the weapon's accuracy, more of our shots actually miss at 35 meters, so we can't really get an accurate measure at this point. However, on paper, in terms of burst DPS, Ouroboros does still win, but in actuality, within game, due to the accuracy, not so much. Also, at 25 meters, I can only speak for myself, but especially on the range, granted, stationary target doesn't hide. However, there have been a few times throughout the footage you can see in the background of where I have easily got the majority of my shots on target at around 20 to 25 meters. And even in the range at 25 meters, I would say I land at least 95% of my shots on target at 25 meters. So I don't think it's particularly unfeasible for 25 meters. The next problem is, I would have to double check with Rousey. However, he and a few others did like more in-depth math and figured out the exact percentage drop per meter after 15 meters. And they found that paper-wise, Ouroboros essentially beats everything up to precisely 32 meters. Which is strange. However, that being said, we don't really have a target on the range for 32 meters to actively test this. I'm not sure how they tested it. I'm not really going to go into it. All I can say for absolute certainty is 25 meters, Ouroboros wins. Now, how far you want to lean into this is going to be entirely up to you. It's all going to be down to personal preference and how you personally feel within yourself to utilize an SMG past 15 meters. Realistically, it can and does outperform the vast majority of weapons up to, like I said, 25 minutes. That much is perfectly clear, easily doable, and I would say more than achievable for the vast majority of players. Past 25 meters, obviously we have other better options. I know a lot of people are going to reference Elmo here. However, even in that regard, up to like 30 meters, the only downside is going to be the Ouroboros' accuracy anyway. However, considering it's like the most accurate SMG, outside of using the perfect outsider talent, or really any SMG with outsider, which gets a huge increase to both optimal range as well as accuracy, it is just by far the superior SMG in terms of overall handling, accuracy, stability, blah, 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 blah. To put it simply, it's probably the most busted weapon in the game at the moment. It's kind of silly. It is essentially what Chameleon should have been, but without the annoying need to build up all those buffs. In fact, the only real weapon that's actively able to compete with this damn thing is Chameleon with the buffs active. That is essentially it. Anyway, that's just about going to do it for this video. Hopefully we've learned something. Have fun. Good luck. Don't die. It's bad for the health.